Alright, it is Sunday, and this is going to be the weekly trading recap or review from the last week, which was really July the 6th to the 9th, because the 5th was a day off. Markets were closed because of July 4th, and despite the fact that there were only 4 days of that trading week, I traded 11 trades. I had 10 trades that were green, and this was, I guess, the highest winning percentage I've had at 90%, almost 91. Average dollar gain was $9.90. Average loss, which was only one trade right here that did not work out, MJWL, and this was it wasn't a pretty setup. It was actually kind of bad. Average percent gain was 2.61%. Average percent loss, unfortunately, is more because of this one trade. But the good thing is that my average, dollar gain position size was about twice, not twice, but almost twice as much as the one I took here, which was kind of small because I knew it was a speculative position. I traded smaller here. I traded a $130 position, but this looks like one of my smaller trades. If not, it seems like it was the the third smallest one. So that was again a trade I'll go over here. Doesn't really help too much. Average dollar gain, time in trade 2 minutes, which I guess is better. Average dollar loss, time in trade was that one that I just held for 33 seconds. I made $94 on the week, and that was with, in total, $3,500 of, total dollar volume traded. So a lot of improvements, and what I like seeing the most is that of that amount that I traded, it was 2.64%. So, I am getting closer in terms of me, being more profitable with the dollar volume that I traded. Not doing these little baby scalpy things. If I look here, this is my best so far in terms of average percent gain. It's much higher than it has ever been. Average percent loss was not the biggest, and again, it was just one trade. Sure, it was my highest winning percentage, but I think that can vary. That's not really a goal. I mean, a goal is to be at least 60%, I think. 90 is pretty nice though. Now, the one thing that was the issue with this week is that I felt like I wasn't holding some of these, or I wasn't risking off a certain level, or just not holding the trade that ultimately wins. As you can see, a lot of these setups, they worked out. Yes, 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 yes. Just 2 no's. And in terms of that sense, I could have been much more profitable had I have held these better. Not longer. Sometimes it's not good to hold it longer, especially with NJWL. I traded nicely here in that I cut losses quickly, but just to hold the trade better in terms of how it's going. I'm going to go over all of these trades, Tim Limtel style. And I like how in the very, last day, 2 days of the trading week, so the other half I got a lot better, just holding the trades a bit better. And I still had a lot of room for improvement, but as you can tell, I have a 5% gain, 3% gain, 3% gain, 5.80% gain. This is a breakthrough if you ask me, and I hope I can be more consistent with that I can keep getting, more gains like this, and I have these like little baby scalpy trades. And ideally, I can push myself to trade larger position sizes too. I really started that here, trading a $690 position. I don't know when was the last time I traded a position this large, but I hope I can continue working on it, because, I have to push myself. I can get really good at a certain setup, but it's one thing to get good at a setup and then get good at the setup and scaling too. So that's something I need to work on. Anyway, let's just go ahead and go over the trading week. And with the first trade, APTY was the first dip towards VWAP. Let's look at, yeah, let's look at APTY for July 6th. So right back here, it looks like just a sketchy green candle broke out of this range. Excuse me. Broke out of this range right here. It got as high as 25, but it looks like it faded perhaps the rest of the day. Let's look at the 6th, which was right here. Let's just highlight the entire day. Had a gap down the next day, and let's see when the trade was. 9:36, and I got out 9:37. So 9:36, my entry out 197. So 9:36 was right back here. Let's just go ahead and zoom in right about here. 9:36, right about here at 197. So why was I interested in this? It's probably because it had, yep, it had a gap up from the other day. It was doing a nice spike. It was running, right? Looking nice, looking like it could run the rest of the day, which it did here. I mean, it did get to 25. And then 9:36, I traded it. This was a dip towards VWAP in that sense. So as you can tell, it hit it here, then it opened here, slightly above it. And that's why I got in, because it looked like there were people, you know, supporting the bid, and then the ask was starting to be taken out. So I took a buy at 197. I sold, of course, the next minute, 202. So 9:36 right here. Sold at 9:37. 202, which was right here. So near the top of this candle, it did drop below from that level towards VWAP again, but then it held itself through and it made a nice run to 21.7. Hit it again. This time it didn't hit it here, and it got even higher, right? This would have been a nice sell. Or maybe here after it has this drop, it comes back. Doesn't really seem like it'll get back to its highs. The sell at 235. I just need to get better at holding these, and just to see, that was 1050. So that would have been a long hold. For me, at least, to hold an hour. Super long. But yeah, the setup worked. And what did I put? Should have risked the low, not the price action. Yeah, had I have risked, you know, it cracking VWAP, right, which was at 197, the same entry that I had actually, you know, or that VWAP level, I could have potentially have been able to sell somewhere here. Maybe it drops towards VWAP, but now it's still higher than this 197 at 202, so basically where I sold. And then maybe I could have considered selling here when it was trading all iffy, and it at the time wasn't making a higher high. So out of curiosity, what would a sell at 213 be? That would have been an 8% gain, 32 bucks. Alright, so that's pretty cool. First dip towards VWAP, not a bad daily chart to consider the setup in, because it could run very nicely, and it did, just didn't close nicely. And yeah, this definitely a nice attempt at this setup for zip towards VWAP. Looks like I had the same thing for RGBP at 956. I bought and sold the same candles. So let's look at RGBP for the 6th. Alright, so yeah, pretty sketchy looking candle. It's not ideally perfect because, you know, it's gonna have a lot of potential bag holders from this price action here and any other of the spikes that it had. It looks like it just faded afterwards, so not really the best setup, but there was definitely a potential, perhaps just not as well as APTY, which seemed to be at its highs. So let's go ahead and look at the 6th, which was right here, and my entry was, and my exit was 956. So I got in at 956, 297. Let's just do it from here, right about there. 956, which was right here. I bought and sold the same candle, and that was Yeah, 297, 302. So right here, 297 was my entry right here, and then my exit was 302, so just slightly above it. Now, I remember the issue with this trade. I just had a bad entry. I was too early. I was really good, as you might remember, with APTY. It was right at the range, the bottom of the range, which was also the VWAP level. Unfortunately, here I was just too early, probably greedy, and I bought and sold the same candle again at 956. Had I have taken a buy maybe at 291, that would have been really nice, and sure, it wouldn't have worked out. It would have cracked under, and I would have had to have cut losses, or maybe try to be risky and hold and see if I can sell for break even or whatever, which would have been the opportunity here. You know, I probably should have just been better with my entry in that, because I wasn't good with my entry. Just kind of messed me up, and I got out of it immediately when it started the uptrend, just in case. So that kind of ruined the trade, even though it left me profitable. I would have been happier if it didn't work out, as shown here. But I got an entry at 291, for example, and then I cut losses here at 286. That would have been a lot nicer. Even though that would have been a loss, that would have been me trading it a lot better. But you know, nevertheless, it was a good attempt. Here would have been better, a first step towards VWAP, because it does look like it's uptrending from this this 2.5 level, then it gets to 2.9, so there is range, and then it drops here. This would have been a better entry, honestly. Maybe the second one is just not as ideal as the first one. I called it first zip towards VWAP, but this is clearly the second if you look back here, you know, although this kind of, you know, gives it more probability, because the spike before it dropped to VWAP was pretty massive. So yeah, just not the best entry there. It wouldn't have worked out, but you know, I could have traded that one better. Even though it would have probably been a loss, it would have been a better trade, you know, in terms of just being disciplined. Let's look at DPLS for the 6th as well. Another first step towards VWAP. So DPLS 6. So right about here, the 6th, big red day. Same thing with APTY, was breaking past the high of a previous range, and DPLS, of course, is, you know, it shows this thing had a lot more room to run. It's still at its highs. Could be a potential morning panic bounce play in the future, although this one trades a bit weird. Doesn't necessarily have the best range either, but again, the 6th right here was just a nice day. Broke out of that range. Let's look at the 6th here with DPLS, which is back here. And let's just highlight from this point back. DPLS was a buy at 10:04. I got out the next minute. As you can see, I'm not happy with that. You know, just come on. Could I hold better than that? 10:04, 1083. So 10:04, 1083, which was back here. Yeah, that was a sick entry actually. Yeah, 1083 right here. 10:04, which was the green candle. So this was clearly a first step towards VWAP. If I were to zoom back, again, it cracked to this level at 957. Has a spike from 989. It gets as high as 1149. Not the best range with this stock again, but you know, it is kind of clean, Dip towards VWAP, touched the VWAP. Got my entry at 1083, I believe. And let's see when I sold. I was in this thing at 10:04. Literally sold the next minute. 43 seconds. 195, 1095, so 105. So give or take right here in this candle. Clearly had more room for profit. Now I don't mind had I have sold here, right at this 1142 level, because hey, in theory this thing might be the top. I did trade this breakout here later in the day. I didn't hold that long, but I wouldn't have minded if I sold right under the breakout level just in case it doesn't work out, or maybe sell half. That would have been totally fine. And just out of theory, what if I sold at 1147? Okay. Yeah, that would have been almost 6%. That would have been $12. Again, not the largest position size. But yeah, I totally have room for improvement there. Could have held longer. I risked off a price action, not to the low of day. So I think that's something that I've learned just looking right now. On these first dip towards VWAP setups, we're going to try not to risk based off a price action. If the price action looks bad, I'll get out. Instead, I'll try risking it off of that VWAP level or the low of the range. So maybe if it dipped just below it a little bit, I can risk off the bottom of that. Just try not to. I'll just try not to risk off a price action, because then it seems like it shakes me out of a setup that works ultimately. Again, I wouldn't have mind selling here because this was a high. Could have rejected this level. It didn't. It broke through, but a lot of improvement could have been made in that trade. But again, that's what it seems like. I'm learning that I need to risk based off of the VWAP level or the low of the range, which would have been this 10.064 level, or again that VWAP level. It all depends, of course, on every single setup. That's something I can definitely do to improve. And DPLS, I traded the same stock the same day. That was a higher day breakout. Again, that breakout that you can see later, I was in at 1026, 1148. So 1020. Let's try to zoom. Yeah, we'll do it from right here. So 1026 right here. This candle right here, right? Why is it like in the middle? Okay, 1026, 1148. So I hit the ask. Was just risking. Not really risking anything. Just risking if it's gonna crack, break past the level or fail. That was really my risk here, and it did work. I guess in theory, because I was risking whether it breaks out or not, I could have traded larger. Because if it doesn't break out, I'll immediately get out, right? But this was a great attempt because I don't have that much experience with higher day breakouts, although I am getting better at it. I am seeing it more often, how it plays out. I'm paying more attention to it. So again, I got in at 1026, and let's see when I got out. Alright, at least it wasn't, well, it wasn't a minute, but it was a minute and a half. 1028, 1157. So right here, yeah, I remember. So this was the thing here. It kind of, I actually thought there was a good chance it wasn't gonna break out, because it was this price action I've seen several times where the ask is very large and then it starts getting smaller, and then there's a lot of size going through, and then it looks super thin and it's still taking lots of size. So it looks like it's trying to trick you, but no, it actually broke the level. And what happened when it broke that level, I guess some shorts got just put out their buy to cover orders, and they just created this pop. And I tried selling into it, but I wasn't successful. I didn't really sell for much. Obviously could have held this thing a bit longer too, although it was looking a bit sketchy. Trading extremely thin. But just out of curiosity, if I sold at 11.9, what would that have been? That wouldn't have been much. Well, yeah, it would have been 3% more. And I don't regret too much, because I tried selling into that pop, right? Because if you take a sell into the pop, sure, it goes higher eventually. It can do that, or it might fail. But if you sell into a pop, you just save a lot of time holding in this trade. Just sell at the initial. Not really here, not the best example, but like just to sell the initial squeeze, and then just even if it uptrends more, I'm not in the trade for a longer period of time. I'm in and out, so I can move on with that and not be staring at the stock. But yeah, it worked out. Probably could have considered a larger size just because I wasn't risking like the low or something like that. I was risking pretty much the exact same level I got in, If it doesn't break out, I'm gonna get out immediately. I could have done that, but that's alright. That was a good attempt nonetheless, and yeah, I'll just keep working towards that. Next one is NLST. Now we're in the 7th. NLST number 5, morning panic bounce play. Let's look at NLST for the 7th. As you can see, it's a nice pump. Gives off LWLG vibes. Here it is. So I had this red day the other day, and then here is just trying to hold itself. But here's that morning panic bounce play. Look at that nice wick. At least I think that's a real drop. Although it did break past this level here. Not really convincingly, but it is above it, so maybe this thing will have more room to uptrend. Let's look at the 7th, which is right here. Since it is a morning panic bounce play, I'll highlight to the early part, but this thing, after some consolidation, it looks like it broke past VWAP. Kind of did a confirmed breakout where it breaks past it, drops back towards the level, holds support, and then it makes a nice run. And I guess here could be some kind of a sketchy looking bull flag, perhaps. Excuse me. And it had a nice run, so let's look. Let's highlight right here. Why not? NLST, I was in at 933, 4565. 933, which was this red candle, 4565. So right here. Not the best entry, wow. I understand the idea though, because right here, 932, right? Yeah, 932 was the big volume candle, and I probably thought, okay, maybe it won't get lower than this wick, but it did get lower than the wick here. I think if I look back, I said I should have been more patient. Yeah, I should have been more patient on my entry, because I could have gotten it executed maybe lower right here in this 447 level. And that would have helped a lot more, you know, being patient with the setup. But because I did get a bit of an early entry, thinking that it wasn't going to crack the wick here after the big volume candle, should have been more patient to see what this one will play out and do eventually. But I understand why I ended up early, but because, you know, I could have turned around extremely quickly. But probably should have been just a little more patient on this type of morning panic bounce play, because it is a higher priced stock, and I tend to see those play not perfectly. They kind of play a bit choppy. So for that sense, I should have probably been more patient. Now I don't regret that if that was like, you know, a 1 cent stock, right? Because a lot of times it does do that immediate reversal. It doesn't break the range from that big volume candle, but in this case I probably should have been more patient in terms of that, but that was alright nonetheless. And I got it at 933, 4565, 936. I sold at 465. So right here, 936. I saw the top here. Now realizing that, okay, this thing might not be perfect. It's a higher priced stock. It might not even get towards VWAP. And I did have a sell order. I remember having a sell order already, you know, there waiting to get executed at the VWAP level. But then, you know, I thought, okay, maybe I won't really get there. Let me just put it at 465. And I did get executed at 936. At least that's when I placed the order. Maybe I got executed at 937. I don't know. But I had it not at VWAP, just slightly below it. I think because I saw the top was here, and then it probably came back there one more time and I got executed. There were 2 more minutes where I could have sold at that same 465 level. As you can see, it wasn't really a perfect morning panic bounce play, but you know, it was a good attempt nonetheless. Should have been a little more patient, a little more cautious with these, because they are higher priced. Just like LWLG, they're a bit strange. So, you know, just not a bad trade attempt, and I was profitable. Had I have gone at 4.7, yeah, that would have been almost 5%. That would have been, well, not really 5%. That would have been 4%. That would have been a lot nicer. So, just should have been a little more patient there, but yeah, that wasn't bad at all. That was a good attempt. And now let's go over the one trade that actually didn't work out. I lost money in MJWL. This was a pretty bad setup, but let's just go ahead and go over it. MJWL for the 7th. Okay, so it looks like the second red day, it did drop a lot. You know, this is one of these crappy stocks that just uptrend very slowly. You know, I'm not hating on it. It's just not my type of stock. I could consider it maybe just a small position, you know, on another account just to see how far these things go. It kind of gives off vibes like FBCD, which took forever, but it did uptrend very nicely over a long period of time. Same kind of thing. Let's go back, and what was it? The 7th, right? Yep. So right here, and as you can tell, it still had some more room for dropping, although not that nice. A bit strange. It's trying to regain itself, but yeah, it was a nice big red day on the 7th. Morning panic bounce play. What was it? No, it was a lower low. Yeah, lower low. So let's look at 10:01, and that was 1826. So let's go back here, and then let's look at 10:01, which was right here. 10:01, right back here, 1826. So here was my entry. I remember, you know, it had this wick right here, the previous candle. It wasn't like a big obvious volume candle, but I thought at the time it was trading lots of volume. So I thought, alright, let me try and, you know, get in at this 1826 level, right? And let's just risk off the wick of this tiny candle. Let me zoom in some more so it doesn't look that hard. Yeah, right here, 10:01, you know, risking off the wick. Cracks the wick, immediately cut losses at 10:02, right? Yeah, 10:02. I sold at 1777, so right here, 10:02. So that right here, give or take. Yeah, this 77 level right here. My entry again was right here. Yeah, that was pretty bad in terms of percent loss, but I probably shouldn't have traded it because it didn't even have a clean morning panic bounce play. Why should I be trying to go for a lower low if this thing didn't, you know, initially look nice either? Shouldn't have considered it. Very likely for that reason, but it did eventually right here, you know, big volume candle here. It had 3, 1, 2, and then it had a third one. Here it made a move, right? It made a move from 15 to 17, or a touch at VWAP right here at 1731-ish. It did work out eventually in that sense, but I probably shouldn't have considered it at all just because it didn't have a good initial morning panic bounce play. Here was a crappy morning panic bounce play. If you were perfect, 1909. And then a sell at 27.7, so not even that much range. Drops, okay, I'm thinking it's going to make the lower low way back here. Too early on it too. Didn't work out, cut losses quickly, at least I did that. I wasn't bag holding it. Just not a good setup. That was a crappy setup. 7.7 AMC, this was inverse head and shoulder, second high or low. AMC for the 7th. Right here is the 7th. Yeah, it cracked to this range right here at give or take this 49 level, or if you want to be picky you can say 50, you know. And let's see what happened since. Still, it's trying to regain itself, but it's clearly struggling. But let's look at the 7th for AMC, which was back here. Let's just go ahead and highlight it because it was in the morning. This level, inverse head and shoulder, second higher low. That was 1050. I held this one better. 1057, 45.24. So 1057, right here, 45.24, right there at that level where I had it right here. So what is the setup? Inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder, second higher low. And I was going for the initial inverse head and shoulders, but I just think I didn't get executed. I just think I was maybe too hesitant. I'm not extremely sure, but it did do it from here. It got from this 43.97 up to what, 46.02. Not much range on a $40 stock, but you can trade a lot of volume. You can trade a very large position size and not have a problem with it. I traded here the second higher low, which did work. It did get from 45 to 45.87, but I guess this is what really turned out to be the the inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, second higher low. I guess this was just a VWAP hold, really. And I did make a move here from 44 to 46, so it worked. Here it worked too, just not as nicely as it did here. It wasn't a bad attempt at all. A lot of these, work out, but in this one, it did a little bit, and then this one is where it worked out for real. So again, I got in at what was it? That 45.24. I sold at 11.04. So again, look at the range. 45.24, 45.64, 11.04. So I sold right here. The moment that there was showing some kind of a reversal, I took a sell in the 64 because it would bounce and try to get higher, right? I don't know if it got to the 90s. No, it didn't. It got to the 80s. And then it did it twice, maybe 3 times, and I thought, okay, let me sell. It's clearly looking like it's not going to do it. Took a sell in the 64. It did get to the 90s right here. It didn't get to 46, I don't think so. But that was the most it offered. It wasn't a bad attempt. I did trade a $400 position, 10 shares, just a small profit, under 1%. Why did I say that? Need more patience on entry. Oh, that's right. I could have gotten in flat at 45. Because if you look back, 45 was pretty easy to get, right? Maybe not 45 flat, but I could have gotten in at like 45, 13 or something like that. I know it's just 10 pennies, but, I gotta take stuff like that seriously. It would have been a little more profitable, but not that much. The setup didn't work out really well. It wasn't bad. It did work out. It just wasn't perfect. I might even downtrend this and put could put okay. I could do that. I'll do that. I guess it doesn't work here. Yeah, I could change that to a kinda. That would be 1. And that would make that a 7. So that would make it a 91 in terms of did the setup work or not, which would be now a B instead of a B plus. So let's change that to a 91B right here, because it just didn't offer that much range. Excuse me. It really didn't. Let's just pretend, best case scenario, I got in at 45 and I sold at 45.9, because this would have been, if it's at least 5%, I'll move it back, but I doubt it. Yeah, best case it would have been 2%. Yeah, so that's probably a good idea to put kinda. It worked in that it didn't just downtrend, like MJWL just continue fading, but it didn't offer that much range either. So this would have been nicer. So yeah, I don't mind that being there at all. The next one is AMC Gamer. I had 2 gamer trades. This is when I started to really pick up on my trading and do a lot better on these last 2 days. I only had 1 trade the last day. Let's look at gamer for the 8th. Still at its highs. This thing's impressive. Right here. Right here, red candle. Look at the wick. This was the morning panic bounce play. has some nice range there and clearly has a lot more room to run. But this thing kind of it trades kind of sketchy in that it doesn't trade very nicely in the morning, and then it breaks out in the afternoon and runs. But that's totally fine. As you can see, this is what I'm talking about. Looking all ugly and consolidating, not doing much, and then it kind of just runs through later in the day. I should have been ready for that this day, but you know, it did it back here. That's where I first saw that it did something like that. Let's go back. Right here was the 8th. Let's look at the 8th, which was right here. Since it was a morning panic bounce play, let me just do it from here. Alrighty, and I traded it not just the morning panic bounce play, but the lower low setup. 933, 35.30. So 933 was right here. Green candle, 35.30. I absolutely murdered the entry, like just really good entry, just killed it. Right here, 933, 35.30. For a moment, I wasn't even sure if I was in the trade or not because Schwab had a small delay. But it showed that I was in it, and I got in at this level, which was pretty nice. Tim Sykes also traded this setup too, but haha, I did trade it. I got a way better entry than he did. Now, there wasn't a big obvious volume candle here, but there were just big volume candles in general. So it wasn't extremely perfect, but that was the setup morning panic bounce play. It dropped from this 41 level to 35. So there is range in this trade. And I got out, let's see, at 935, 37, 10. So let's look at 935. 37.10. So I was back here. Now I didn't sell. It was right here. I didn't sell at the VWAP level, which would have been at 37.61, or above it, which would have been 38.32, give or take, because I hated the way this one was trading, back and forth, back and forth. Look how much range, you know, there is in this candle from 35 to freaking 38. That's 10%. Give or take, in just one candle. So much range. Did not like how I was trading all choppy. Sure, I've seen this, but not like this crazy. And you know, I just didn't like it. So I don't mind the fact that I didn't sell at the VWAP level or try selling above it, because it was trading all strange. But it was a good trade, a good attempt nonetheless. And just to see it, had I have sold at VWAP at 37.46. Yeah, it just would have been 1 more percent. So, you know, it was a good sell there because it was less risk trying to, you know, trying to wait to see if it can get past VWAP, and it did. And now here at 38.16, let's see how that would have been. That would have been 8%. So that would have been a lot more noticeable. But again, I don't regret where I sold because it was trading all ugly. You know, I don't regret that I didn't sell at VWAP because maybe it wouldn't have gone to VWAP because of how crappy it was trading. Or maybe I just need to say, hey, even though it's trading all crappy, the volume is still fading, so this thing could still bounce. And it did that, so maybe that's something I can learn with that. A good trade nonetheless, great attempt. Maybe I can just be more patient even if it trades all ugly because the volume is fading. Now, if it shows that it's not fading or it's staying about the same, that might be a warrant, a reason for me to sell, but that was, again, a good trade. That was a great attempt. Let's look at the lower low. And that was, I wonder what these are. The lower low, that was smaller size, you can tell. Traded just a bit smaller just because of the fact that it is the lower low and it was trading all ugly in the initial morning panic bounce play, but I got in at 33.05, 952. Right here, 952. This green candle, 33.05. Really good entry as well. Sure, I didn't get the wake here, but I don't mind that because this thing could have kept, you know, when it wasn't here, when it didn't close here, when this candle was active at that minute and is all the way down here, this thing could keep running. So this was a great entry, like a really, really good entry. I'm really happy to see this entry. And we did have these big 2 volume candles as well. So that really, you know, gave me the confidence to trade it right here, even though it wasn't a large position. it did, it did get me into buying this, and that was a good entry at this low 30, well, I guess the high 32 level. And I sold 956. I held longer, which is great, at 34.14, 956 right here, 34.14. So give or take right about here, right there in this candle. I bought here, sold here. Why? Even though the volume was fading, the price action just looked horrible, and I think that's why I sold there. Let's see what I said. Could have held longer, but choppy price action. That's true. Although it wasn't as ugly as it was back here. And as you can tell, it did drop back to this level, once again. But then it kind of held itself, started consolidating, very low volume effect. It looks like it might not have even traded volume in some of these candles. Eventually broke past VWAP. And if we look, it had a nice subtrend. It kept running, right? It got to the 40 level. Very nice. But I wasn't going for that. I was going for an initial immediate bounce back towards VWAP. And it just wasn't doing it. Here was a case where I don't regret selling because of bad price action. And really, not just bad price action, but it had very crappy volume. I'm not trying to hold this thing forever, It did do that, and I've seen that happen again and again, Has that morning panic bounce play, a lower low, maybe a higher low, or a double bottom. And it makes this run that takes forever, but I want a quick bounce back. There's plenty of them that do a quick bounce back, and I didn't get it here, so I took a sell. It wasn't, excuse me, it didn't get to VWAP till, if you want to be specific here, that would have been a very long time for my entry. So that was a good attempt, and I did hold that one longer. So still a nice 3% gain. So I can't get upset. Now let's look at the 8th DPLS. This was a morning panic bounce play, but it happened later in the day, still in the morning, but not, not like at 9:34, 9:33. It was here a lot later at 10:13. So let's look at DPLS for the 8th. Right about here, the 8th. This is the 7th. Right here. So a green candle trying to catch itself again, trying to come back. And it clearly did. In fact, it went even higher, broke past this range. But nonetheless, had some kind of a morning panic bounce play. Doesn't really show there. But let's go ahead and take a look at it for the 8th, which was right here. Oh, I see why it wasn't really a morning panic bounce play, because it didn't have like a panic. It wasn't red on the day. It was just red from the spike. I'll still call it a morning panic bounce play because it was a panic right here. It wasn't a morning, but it wasn't like a traditional one where perhaps like this one right here had that wick where it went towards the bottom and then it ran, forward. But yeah, that was I don't mind calling it that. A late number 5 setup morning panic bounce play. I got in at 10:13. That was 13:01. So 10:13, 13:01 right here, and that was just a doji looking candle, 13:01. So right about here in this doji looking candle. Now there wasn't like a big volume candle. It was back here, but the fact that it was starting to kind of uptrend and hold itself. I don't remember what level I was risking, but maybe I was risking the lows. I'm not extremely sure. Maybe I can say somewhere. I didn't say anything about where I risked, but probably just the lows of that range. And I sold at bought at 13:01, sold at 13:40, so that was 10:16. Again, I was in at 10:13, and I sold at 10:16. I sold immediately when it was a sign that it was going to turn around, which was this 13.4 level. Sure, I could have held longer, and this thing would have ran higher, but I don't regret this because it wasn't a perfect morning panic bounce play. That it wasn't, at 9:34, that range, that time period. But there was a big volume candle here. It was trying to hold that it was trying to hold itself, show that it could maybe uptrend, and I got in for that reason. So at this 13.4 level, it got as high as 14.19. That would have been hard, but maybe if it gets here, red candle drops, and then maybe I take a sell at this 13.76 level. Let's see how that would have been. That would have been 2% more. I did trade a small position size, so it doesn't really change the dollar profit that much. But I say that was a fine trade. That was a great attempt, a good learning. Held not too bad. And here, the last trade, HPIL for the 9th. This is the one where I just traded a larger position size, morning panic bounce play. I'm not sure what day it was, but I think it was MWWC. Was a really nice one too, but I wasn't in the trade because it was an issue just with with Charles Schwab. I think it might have been me, but this one worked out nicely too. HPIL. Let's look at the 9th for HPIL. So HPIL is different from PHIL in that PHIL, oh, it's trying to come back now, but it's near the bottom of its range, while HPIL is still kind of holding it, so it's not horrible. Let's look at the 9th, right? The last day. Yep. Morning panic bounce play. Let's look at the 9th, which is right here. Let's just show it from there. Let's probably not make it that small. And I got in. I liked my entry. My entry was pretty good. 937.69. So let's look at 937.69 right here. This green candle right here was my entry. Morning panic bounce play. You know, I had a drop from, in theory, 8 to 6.9. So there's clearly range in this. Got an entry here. Was risking off of 6.8. If 6.8 cracked, I'd sell at 6.7. That would have been a $20 loss. So, because it was a larger position size. However, it didn't happen in this sense. It did have a big volume, not as big as here, sure, but it was, in theory, a big volume candle here. So we had a big volume candle, some kind of a sign that there's support on the bid and the ask is being taken out. I got executed at 6.9, and I sold at 9.40 at, alright, let's not have that, 7.3, 9.40, 7.3, right here, 9.40, 7.3, maybe, yeah, no, this is true, because I didn't get executed the first time I got to 7.3, but I did here, right before I had this downtrend, although it only got to 6.1, which is way further, you know, a lot further away than that 6.8 level, and it broke through very nicely, really nicely. But I don't regret this one selling at VWAP level. Sure, I could be like, oh, but you know, I should have maybe sold half and pushed myself harder and blah blah blah. But I already pushed myself in that I traded a larger position size here on this morning panic bounce play setup, and the fact that I even sold at VWAP was pretty good in and of itself. Now in the future, I can trade even larger of a size and go for VWAP as well, or maybe sure, I can try selling half at VWAP and then hold the other to see if it will maybe downtrend a little and then break past it, or here. Yeah, this was it. It touched it, downtrended, and then it broke past it. That's exactly what it did here. Sometimes it just keeps on going. It just breaks through. It doesn't care. Sometimes it fails. It turns around, kind of puts up like a higher low or, you know, a double bottom, and then you sell for break even the other half, or it makes the second part of the trade, the second trade opportunity, the lower low, you know, and I would have to sell that for break even back here. But, you know, it would have given me a chance to get into more profits up here. It did get as high as 8.3. Now, I would not have sold at 8.3. That would have been kind of crazy. But that would have been a lot more profitable. That would have been 20%. That's why I put big yes, because it offered a lot of range in the setup. Clearly did that. Now maybe if I sold some at 7.3 and I sold half at maybe 7.8, so maybe I pushed it to 7.5, right? Because I sold, you know, in two pieces. That would have been more profitable, but still, I don't regret it. Yes, I could be beating myself up because, oh, I could have held, better, could have held half, blah, blah, blah. Again, the fact that I pushed myself to trade a larger size and sold at VWAP, I didn't just, you know, buy here and then sell at, sell at, 7-1 because I'm being all chicken. I sold at VWAP. I don't regret that at all. Clearly, I'll try better, right? Next week, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I can keep getting better, or at least more experience if I do worse. But just try my best. This was not a bad attempt again. Really happy with it. I'm very cynical, but here I try not to be too cynical. Again, because I did push myself to trade. I'm not trying to make this a drinking game, but I did push myself to trade a larger size here, and I did sell at VWAP. If I saw the same exact trade setup, I could probably trade a $1,200 position perhaps, or maybe just trade that same size, or maybe even smaller, and just try better holding half of the position for a potential move like this to sell into. So that's all I got. I really like how I improved a lot better later towards the week. The percent gains got a lot nicer. I held the trade just that much better. Not too much better, but definitely better than last week. That's why I had a lot of OKs, as in how did I trade, because I felt like I wasn't holding these as well or risking off a more important level. First dip towards VWAP setups now going into this week. If we have any of these setups, I'll risk off of that VWAP level or the low of the range. I won't risk off a price action because that seems to get me out of the trade and cutting my profits short. As for these morning panic bounce plays, I do good on my entries. I just need to keep getting better. Again, I can try a larger size. I can try holding half. Maybe I can do both at the same time, or maybe just one or the other. Maybe even go back to the original $300-400 ish position size and just try better. Selling half. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of fact that I have to keep trying. I have a lot of room for improvement. I'm going to look forward to studying today, at least a little. And yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully I can keep improving. Maybe I'll get a red week next week, or maybe it'll be a really nice green week. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to have to keep trying, because that's all I can do is just keep trying and putting in effort. And clearly I have a lot of things I could get better at, which is good. A lot of room for improvement. And yeah, I just have to keep going at it.